Baader-Meinhof Phenomenon. The Baader-Meinhof Phenomenon occurs when you learn about something new and then start noticing it everywhere. This is due to your brain paying more attention to the new information, making it seem more frequent even though it isn't. Tetris Effect. The Tetris Effect occurs when people devote so much time and attention to an activity that it begins to pattern their thoughts, perceptions, and dreams. For example, after playing Tetris for an extended period, a person might see falling blocks in their mind's eye, even when not playing the game. Hawthorne Effect. The Hawthorne Effect refers to the phenomenon where individuals modify their behavior in response to their awareness of being observed. This effect was discovered during experiments on worker productivity, where workers improved their performance simply because they knew they were being watched. Peltzman Effect. The Peltzman Effect suggests that people are more likely to take greater risks when they feel more protected. Social loafing. Social loafing is the tendency for individuals to put in less effort when working in a group than when working alone. This occurs because people feel less accountable and believe that others in the group will pick up the slack. Barnum Effect. The Barnum Effect refers to the tendency for people to believe vague, general statements about themselves, thinking they are highly accurate. Self-fulfilling prophecy. A self-fulfilling prophecy occurs when a belief or expectation leads to its own fulfillment. For instance, if you expect to fail a test, you may not study as hard, leading to poor performance, which confirms your original expectation. Ben Franklin Effect. The Ben Franklin Effect is a psychological phenomenon where someone who has done you a favor is more likely to do another favor for you in the future. This is because their brain justifies their initial action by assuming they must like you. IKEA Effect. The IKEA Effect is the tendency for people to place a higher value on products they have partially created themselves, such as furniture they had to assemble. This effect highlights how personal effort increases the perceived value of an item. Pygmalion Effect. The Pygmalion Effect refers to the phenomenon where higher expectations lead to better performance. If someone believes in your potential, that belief can enhance your confidence and ability, leading to improved outcomes. Zeigarnik Effect. The Zeigarnik Effect is the tendency to remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks better than completed ones. This effect explains why unfinished tasks can nag at you and remain in your thoughts until they are completed. Spotlight Effect. The spotlight effect is the tendency to overestimate how much others notice our actions, appearance, or mistakes. People often believe they are the center of attention when in reality, others are less focused on them than they think. Proximity Effect. The proximity effect suggests that people are more likely to form relationships with those who are physically close to them. Repeated exposure to the same individuals increases familiarity, leading to stronger social connections. Pratfall Effect. The Pratfall Effect suggests that a person's attractiveness increases if they make a mistake, unless they are already perceived as incompetent. In other words, when a competent person blunders, it can make them appear more relatable and human, increasing their likability. Backfire Effect. The Backfire Effect occurs when people encounter evidence that contradicts their beliefs, and instead of changing their minds, they become more entrenched in their original views. This effect highlights the difficulty of overcoming deeply held convictions, even when faced with strong counter-evidence. Empathy gap. The empathy gap is the tendency to underestimate the influence of emotional states on behavior. People in a calm state often fail to predict how they or others will behave when experiencing intense emotions like anger or fear. Overjustification Effect. The overjustification effect happens when an external incentive, such as money or prizes, decreases a person's intrinsic motivation to perform a task. For example, if you start paying someone for a hobby they love, they may begin to enjoy it less because it now feels like work. Observer Expectancy Effect. The observer expectancy effect occurs when a researcher's expectations subtly influence participants' behavior in a study. This effect can lead to biased results, as the researcher unconsciously signals the desired outcome to the participants. Fading effect bias. Fading effect bias is the phenomenon where emotions associated with unpleasant memories fade faster than those associated with positive ones. This bias helps maintain a generally positive outlook on life by allowing negative experiences to lose their emotional impact over time. Pavlovian conditioning, classical conditioning. Pavlovian conditioning, also known as classical conditioning, occurs when a neutral stimulus becomes associated with a meaningful stimulus, leading to a conditioned response. Ambiguity Effect. The ambiguity effect is a cognitive bias where people prefer known risks over unknown risks. This bias leads individuals to avoid options with incomplete information, even if those options could potentially offer better outcomes. Confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is the tendency to search for, interpret, and remember information that confirms one's pre-existing beliefs, while ignoring or dismissing information that contradicts them. This can lead to faulty decision-making and reinforcement of one's own views. Dunning-Kruger Effect. The Dunning-Kruger Effect is a cognitive bias where people with low ability or knowledge in a particular area overestimate their competence. This happens because their lack of knowledge prevents them from recognizing their own mistakes or limitations. False consensus effect. The false consensus effect is the tendency to overestimate how much others share our beliefs, opinions, and behaviors. People often assume their views are more common than they actually are, leading to a skewed perception of social norms. Mere exposure effect. The mere exposure effect is the phenomenon where repeated exposure to something or someone increases our preference for it. The more familiar we are with something, the more likely we are to develop a liking for it. Fundamental attribution error. The fundamental attribution error is the tendency to overemphasize personal characteristics and ignore situational factors when judging others' behavior. Halo effect. The halo effect is a cognitive bias where our overall impression of a person influences how we feel and think about their character. If we find someone physically attractive, we might also assume they are kind, smart, or trustworthy. Rosenthal Effect. Similar to the Pygmalion Effect, the Rosenthal Effect refers to the influence of a teacher's expectations on a student's performance. If a teacher expects a student to do well, the student is likely to perform better due to the positive reinforcement they receive. Gambler's Fallacy. The gambler's fallacy is the mistaken belief that past random events influence future random events. For example, if a coin is landed on heads several times in a row, a person might incorrectly believe that tails is due to happen next. Endowment Effect. The endowment effect is the phenomenon where people assign more value to things simply because they own them. This can lead to irrational decision-making, such as refusing to sell an item for its market value because it feels more valuable to the owner. Recency Effect. The recency effect is the tendency to remember the most recent information better than earlier information. This effect is particularly strong in lists or sequences, where the last items are often recalled more easily than the first ones. Forer Effect. The Forer Effect, similar to the Barnum Effect, is the observation that people are likely to accept vague, general statements about themselves as accurate. Illusion of transparency. The illusion of transparency is the tendency to overestimate how well others can perceive our emotions or intentions. People often believe their internal states are more apparent to others than they actually are. Serial position effect. The serial position effect is the phenomenon where people tend to remember the first, primacy effect, and last, recency effect items in a series best, while the middle items are often forgotten. False memory effect. The false memory effect involves remembering events differently from the way they happened or even recalling events that never occurred. This effect demonstrates the malleability of human memory and how it can be influenced by suggestion, stress, or other psychological factors. Choice supportive bias. Choice supportive bias is the tendency to remember one's choices as better than they actually were, often by exaggerating the benefits of the chosen option and downplaying the benefits of the rejected alternatives. Ego depletion. Ego depletion refers to the idea that self-control or willpower is a limited resource that can be depleted by overuse. After exerting a lot of self-control, a person may have less willpower to resist subsequent temptations, leading to a decrease in decision-making quality. Heuristics. Heuristics are mental shortcuts or rules of thumb that simplify decision-making. While they can be useful in making quick judgments, they can also lead to cognitive biases and errors, such as the availability heuristic, where people judge the likelihood of events based on how easily examples come to mind. Reactance. Reactance is the psychological reaction to a perceived loss of freedom or autonomy, leading individuals to resist or do the opposite of what is being imposed. For example, if someone feels pressured to do something, they might refuse or act contrary to the suggestion just to reassert their sense of control. This video is for educational or entertainment purposes only, and information provided in the video may be incorrect. Like the video if you found this video helpful, and subscribe to the channel for more such amazing videos.